There are so many ways to create black and whites in Photoshop, but these two techniques are the most intriguing ones because it takes all of the confusion away and gives you a dramatic result. Take a look at this. All you have to do is to create a gradient map from black to white, and there you go. There you have your dramatic black and white. Now, if you think it's too contrasty, which it is, just change the method from perceptual to classic. And there you go. So here's the before, here's the after. Just one step gives you a fantastic black and white. Now, turn this into an action, which I did. Black and white gradient, play it, and there you go. Just in one step, you have your amazing dramatic black and white. But it does not stop there. You can go inside of it, change the balance. So let's say I want to bring more shine. I can take the right slider to the left like this, take the left slider to the right like this if I wanted to, control the balance with this diamond icon in the middle, just like this, and have a look at this shine. It is just fantastic. We'll learn about it later. Don't worry about the details right now. And if you want the color version of it, well, that's simple too. Just change the blend mode to luminosity. And there you go. So here's the before, here's the after. You can go in and control the contrast all by yourself. You have the absolute control right here to mold the contrast however you want. Maybe you already know this technique, but we're just getting started. There's so much more. But before we do get started, thanks to Storyblocks for sponsoring this video. As creatives, we are always looking for assets like stock photos, maybe for a sky replacement, or stock videos for adding B-rolls like this. We definitely need music tracks like the one running right now, and all of these templates, of course. The problem is it gets very expensive real quick because most stock platforms charge per asset, and they have complicated license and terms and pricing for every use case. Storyblocks fixes that by giving you unlimited access to their massive library of all kinds of creative assets with clear-cut licensing. You have absolute freedom to try whatever you want, have unlimited downloads with no hidden fees. You can easily use the Storyblocks plugins for Premiere Pro and After Effects to directly search and bring in the content to your project without switching platforms. Definitely check out Storyblocks, link is in the description. Back to the tutorial. First of all, let us understand how this works. And if you wish to go ahead and download any of the photos shown in this video, you know what to do. Check the links in the description. Now, before we do anything, I recommend pressing D. Now, what does that do? Well, if the foreground color is something funky and the background color is something funky, if you press D, it resets the foreground and the background color to defaults. D for defaults. That is black and white. Now, all you have to do is to create a gradient map. Now, what is a gradient map and what does that do? Gradient map simply maps the colors of highlights and shadows and everything in between. All right. So right now, with these colors in the foreground and the background, if I create a gradient from foreground to background, it will be black to white, right? Foreground is black, background is white. So click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose gradient map. All right. Now, if you click on right here in the symbol, let's close it first. If you click right here in the symbol of the adjustment layer, make sure you're not in the mask. Otherwise, this will be reversed. All right. Make sure this is selected. If you open this up by double clicking, if you single click right here, and in the basics, the first one would usually be foreground to background. And since the foreground color was black and the background color was white, that is why we have a gradient from black to white. Foreground to background. Makes sense? So whatever is on the right hand side will be on the highlights, and whatever color is on the left hand side will be on the shadows. And that is why it creates a black and white image. If on the right hand side we change the color, let's click on the slider, and you can change the color from right here by clicking here, or you can double click on the slider. That does the same thing. And if you change it to red, right now the highlights are red, and the shadows you can set it to a different color. Green, the shadows are green, and this, my friend, is fantastic duotone, but we are trying to create a black and white image. Now, of course, whatever color there might be beforehand, we can change it to black and white, but it's just easier when the foreground and the background color is already black and white. We just have to create a gradient map and it takes care of the rest. So let us choose foreground to background, and there you have your black and white. Hit OK for now. Now, there are a couple of methods in which a gradient mixes up. If you click on the drop down of the method, you have perceptual. This is the newer method which came with the later versions of Photoshop. I don't like it very much personally in most of the cases. There's classic. It is the way it used to be. And it works great for most black and whites and most gradients. I like this a lot. And then there is linear, which is very linear and might not be good for this example. But again, it is good for brightening shadows up. If you're into it, you can use it to mask certain areas. For right now, for simplicity, just keep in mind two of these, and that is perceptual and classic. The way you can use it is that if you want additional contrast, just choose perceptual. If you want less contrast or standard result, just choose classic. It definitely, even the classic, creates a dramatic result. Now I know what some of you are thinking, Unmesh, why not just create a black and white adjustment layer? Well, you can do that. Again, there are dozens of ways of doing the same thing in Photoshop. There's no wrong way, there's no right way. Each method has its own speciality, and the speciality of this method is this. If you go to the properties right here, double click on the symbol of the adjustment layer, single click right here. Let's move the image a little bit to the left so that we can see what's happening. You can control the balance. If you want white to enter more and more of the midtones and the shadow areas, just take this slider to the left. There you go. If you want black to enter the midtones and highlights, take this slider to the right. As easy as that. You can also control the balance. So let's say I want a little more shine. So I want white to enter a little more of the midtone areas. This is not exactly midtone, but you can say higher midtone areas. So I'm going to take the whites a little bit to the left. Now the shine is added. We don't want to lose details, so up to this much is fine. But it's brightening up the entire image. So we can control the balance and take it to the right hand side. There you go. It's creating that shine. I love that wonderful look. And if you want to get even more fancy, you can create another slider right here. Just click to create a slider. You can have a darker gray color, something like this, and then move it around as well. You have more control right here. This video is about shortcuts. At the same time, you should know how this stuff works, all right? Let's take that gradient away by simply pulling it down. That takes it away. Hit OK for now. The shortcut here is this. You can create fantastic black and whites by simply creating a gradient map from black to white and change the blend mode in most cases to classic. So why not create an action for it? And that's what I did, and that is my gift to you. You can download these actions in the description. Link is in the description. Just open up your actions. Once you install the actions, you will see Pix Quick Black and White. And you can load the action by clicking on the hamburger icon and choosing Load Actions. Find out the actions, load them right here. Just open this up. You have two right here. The first one is a classic gradient. All right, play it. It creates a gradient from black to white, and it's a classic one. Method is classic. All right. If you want a little more contrast, you have the second one. Let's delete this. I dragged it and dropped it into the trash can. All right. The second action is simply the perceptual method. Play it, and there you have your instant black and white. If you click right here, have a look. The method is perceptual. Download this, just have fun with it. Let's move on to the second method, which involves a little calculation. Literally, all you have to do is to go to Image and then Calculations. That's all. This is a very visual method, and the choices you make differ from image to image, and that is why we cannot create an action for it. So right here, you have source 1 and source 2, which is the same image. You can have different channels in both of the sources. You know the image is made up of red, green, and blue channels. So you can have one channel on top of the other and have a blend mode applied to one. So at the top, you can choose to have the red channel, the green channel, the blue channel, or the combined gray channel. See what works the best for you. So in this case, let's say I'm going to go with blue or even green. At the bottom, you have another choice. On top of that, you have the choice of blend modes. You can go with overlay. You can go with multiply. See what works great for you. Again, in this case, multiply works amazingly because that is what we wanted. We want absolutely black background, this coming out, a wonderful image. Now let's make a choice. Red, green, or blue. Which one looks good to you? I think green was more dramatic. And at the bottom, red, green, or blue. You make the choice because this is a very personal preference. So I'm going to go with green again. You can even decrease the opacity according to your liking. If you want a lighter result, 70 is fine. But in this case, I want to go all in, all black at the background. 100 is fine. Now, once you're satisfied with it, just make sure that in the results drop down, it is new channel. You can also do it with a selection, but new channel is easier. Hit OK once you're satisfied. Now, it will appear red because one of the channels is selected. If you go to channels and RGB selected, it will return back to its original image. But right now we have another new channel which we just created, that is alpha 1. And this is what we want. So select the channel, press Ctrl or Command A to select it all, Ctrl or Command C to copy, and then you can get back to layers. Just create a new layer by clicking on the new layer button and paste it, Ctrl or Command V. There you have it. Now in images like this, I usually like to add a little bit of grain, and the way to do it is by pressing Ctrl Shift N, Command Shift N to bring the new layer dialog box. Type in grain or noise, it doesn't really matter. Change the blend mode from normal to overlay. Now overlay is a blend mode which hides anything that is 50% gray. So if you check fill with overlay neutral color, hit OK, it will create the grain layer with gray, and since the blend mode is overlay, you don't see it. If the blend mode was normal, you would see it. Let us change it back to overlay. Now before we do anything, let us not forget, go to filter, convert for smart filters. You know why? So that any filter we apply, we can change the values later. Let's go to filter, noise, add noise. And let's add 40. We're gonna add a lot of noise right here. Uniform is fine, monochromatic is fine, hit OK. Now the noise right here is very fine. We have to blur it a little. Let's go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian, I always have a hard time pronouncing it, Gaussian blur. And 0.8 or 1 is fine, 0.6 is fine as well. For noise like this, hit OK. Now the noise is great, but it's not visible in the absolute dark areas. We want to create a faded look. What do? Just below the noise, let's create a curves adjustment layer. So select this layer right here and click on the adjustment layer icon and then choose curves. The curves would be created on top of it, and just take the point on the left up. That's it. It creates a faded look. Take a look at this. And I love the noise right here. Stuff like this would be perfect for print, maybe not so much for the bedroom. And if you have the PiXimperfect compositing panel, a little bit of marketing right here. Let me delete the grain. All you have to do is to open up the PiXimperfect compositing panel, open up the structures tab right here, and you can create grain real time. So you can just adjust it or click on the plus, it creates the grain layer for you. And in real time, you can increase or decrease the grain. You can change the size of the grain. So this is small grain, fine grain. This is larger grain. You can change the irregularity of the grain like this. So I keep it high. You can also control the blend if. So if you don't want grain in the highlights, right now as you can see, the grain is not in the highlights. But if you do want it in the highlights, take it to the right hand side. Have a look. Now the grain is in the highlights. So you have lots of controls, makes it super easy to add grain. If you want to add one more layer of grain, click on the plus right here again. And there you have another layer of grain. The texture right here looks amazing. Now, sometimes when you're using the calculation method, there's going to be scenarios where the shadows can be crushed. For example, take a look at this. Right now, we're going to go to image, calculations, and you can choose whatever blend mode you want first. So I'm going to go for overlay. Now red channel is a channel where most of the skin tone is, and that is why it's becoming very bright. So let's go for green at the top and maybe blue or green at the bottom. In fact, let us try blue at the top. That is why I told you this is a very visual method. I love how dramatic it is, but also it's crushing up the shadow areas, absolutely crushing the details. So how do we get the details back? Of course, you can choose the blending mode to soft light and have a milder version, but still it's crushing the details. So what do? Choose overlay. Let us not compromise with the drama. That's what my relatives say. Hit OK right here and create the layer. Let's go to channels, alpha channel, Control or Command A, Control or Command C. Let's come back to layers, create a new layer, Control or Command V. All right. Now just under it, we want to create a black and white where we can see the shadows. So make a copy of the background layer. Select the background layer, press Ctrl or Command J. I'm just going to turn off this contrasty black and white for a moment. Let's just take the colors away. Let's not create a dramatic black and white conversion. Just take the colors away in a very bland fashion by pressing Ctrl, Shift, and U. Command, Shift, and U. And that is for desaturate. If you go to Image, Adjustments, Desaturate, it is the same thing, same shortcut. All right. Now let's turn this one on, which is the dramatic one. Now to get the shadows back, some of you already know where we are going with this. Double click on the right hand side of the layer and take this dramatic black and white away from the dark areas by taking the slider of the underlying layer from left to right. There you go. But again, this looks horrible. It is too harsh. We love the drama in these areas, but in the shadows, it is horrible. So how do we make the transition smoother? Hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the slider to break it apart, take it all apart. Take it all apart as much as you have to. I think this much is fine. Hit OK. There you go. So here's the before, shadows were getting crushed. Here's the after. That's amazing. Now, if you compare it with the regular black and white, this is much more dramatic. So here's the before. See, just desaturating, and here's the after. Take a look at it. Look at the drama. Again, here's the before. Here is the after. So cool. You can always go back to blend if by double clicking on the right hand side of the layer and adjust it. I think I might take it a little bit to the left. Here we go. And boom. That's just great. Now, to add more emotion to it, they say eyes are the windows to the soul. Here's what you can do. And it is the easiest way to add shine to the eyes. Just create a new layer. Take the brush. White as the foreground color. You can press X to toggle between the foreground and the background. Make sure the foreground color is white. Choose a soft round brush and then just dab in the opposite direction of the catch light. So if the catch light is right here, I'm just going to dab on the opposite side. Boom. There you go. Similarly, let's do it right here. Boom. There you go. If you want, you can paint a little bit on the catch light as well. One time here, one time there. And change the blend mode from normal to overlay. Done. Here's the before. Here's the after. Now it's also falling on the outside. So click on the mask button. Take black as the foreground color and just paint that away. Paint the extras away. If you think it's not too much, just select that layer, press Ctrl or Command J to duplicate it. Wow, I love it. Now select both of those layers. Select the first one, hold the Ctrl or Command. Select the second one, Ctrl or Command G to group both of them. And you can decrease the overall opacity. I'm going to go for 68, probably a little less than his age. As you can see, the calculation method and the eye shine adds a lot of difference. So those are the two techniques to quickly create incredible black and whites, dramatic black and whites in Photoshop. Now, those are not the only ways. You can use the camera raw, you can use the black and white adjustment layer, but you won't get it as dramatic as this one. You would have to do additional steps. So again, this is one other way of doing it. Just a quick recap, technique number 1 is simply creating a gradient map from black to white. You can choose the method as perceptual or classic. Perceptual is a little more contrasty. Classic is naturally contrasty. And to make it easier for you, all you have to do is to download this action. Link is in the description. Just play one of these. Regular version, more contrast version. Let's play the regular version. It'll do it for you. Anytime you need black and white, this is the action to play. The second method is using calculation. Just go to Image, Calculations, choose one channel at the top, other channel at the bottom, choose a blend mode, hit OK, and it creates it as a channel. Copy the channel, Ctrl or Command A, Ctrl or Command C, create a new layer, Ctrl or Command V. And from then on, you can customize it. You can add noise. You can take it away from the dark areas. There are so many things you can do with it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to give us a like, and also don't forget to subscribe, and not just subscribe. Ring the bell so that you, my friend, don't miss any other feature tips, tricks, or tutorials. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.